Hey everyone, it's Alan over at Cobblers Plus in Denver, and thank you for joining us. In today's video, we're going to be working on these Red Wing 8890 Classic Mock Toe boots. So come join us and check out what we're doing to them. So again, thank you for joining us, and like I mentioned, we're going to be working on these classic mock toes from Red Wing. It's the 8890 model, and these things have definitely seen some better days. They're in rough shape, but I've got them pulled up here on my computer that I have it in the background. Why not? Well, my computer is rendering another video basically. But in today's video, we're going to be doing something different. We're not resoling it with that traditional, Christie Vibram sole like everyone typically sees happen, or the other method that everyone's been loving, where we've been doing the Christie sole and then another sole over top of it, like the Vibram Sierra or the Clearleaf model. But we're actually converting these ones into being able to accommodate the Vibram 430 Mini Lug Sole like that there. So definitely going to be a little bit of a change for these boots. So it's gonna need a heel base, it's going to need a set of heels. From measurement, actually we might not even need to really build up a heel base, but once we start leveling things out and seeing how things go, that's when we'll be able to tell. So first things first, I'm already missing my knife, so let me grab that real quick. While I was at it, I thought I'd readjust the angle also, but I've got my knife here. It was in my drawer, and the drawer gets a little hard to open, so I really got to redo things here, but it's going to take some time for me, and unfortunately I don't have as much free time as I'd like to be able to do that. I'm trying to get a bunch of videos done for you guys, just because there are so many different things that we work on, and trying to get other work that's not video worthy taken care of as well. Saying video worthy, I just don't have time to do the videos on everything we have coming through here. Do you have any idea how much time it takes on these videos? I mean, don't get me wrong, I enjoy doing them, but I do need to sleep and eat and try to spend some time with the family as well. So alright, so what I just did there, I got some turpentine on the welt area right here where everything is stitched up to deactivate the adhesives, and it activates fairly quick, so I'm able to get right in it basically. Now, some of you have seen me using this thinner. Basically, it's a kind of like a turpentine, in other words. Some of you have seen me use it. Sometimes I don't use it. It just depends on the type of boot or shoe it is. Exotic leathers, for example, I don't tend to use it. Light colors, suedes, and nubucks, I don't use it because, obviously, as you can tell, it kind of gets on the uppers here a little bit. But this is Red Wing's rough and tough leather, so it's basically a heavier leather, and it's able to really withstand that. Now, regardless, we're going to be using solutions to clean up these uppers, so it only looks that way with those markings while it's wet, and then once it starts to dry and it's all dry, we're going to be using different solutions to really clean things up. But I have to be careful on certain exotics and certain high quality footwear where it's got like more delicate leather, where it's a little more for appearance rather than just durability or strength. So we don't want to damage the finish on those. But this one, there isn't exactly like a finish for appearance purposes. There's a finish on there for rough and tough, basically. So it's able to withstand it very well. And now at this point I'm just splitting the midsole from the welt. The glue was deactivated, and now I have to cut through the stitches simultaneously, splitting that midsole away. Now, for those of you who don't know, the midsole is 1/8 of an inch thick material right there. If the camera can catch it, it's that line that goes, you could see it better on the back, it's that line right there. and that's what's stitched to the boot, and then this sole is glued over top typically, because you can't stitch through something that thick. You know, that's just way too much, and none of the machines will be able to handle it. So let's see how everything's holding up. Looks like some of the oof, got cork flying at me. Cork definitely is going to get replaced, but you can see right here that ran is kind of coming unglued there, so I'm going to need to glue that down. But first thing, I'm going to have to remove all this cork. Do the same thing with the other boot. I'm going to set one of these soles aside and save it just in case something comes up where I need to use it for something. Actually, I'll probably set both of them aside just to try to center the pattern of the sole as much as possible right there, and get it as center as possible, but I'll save it for that. So in the meantime, you know, I'm just gonna go ahead and get the other one taken apart and then start removing all that cork, and we'll be back in just a few minutes when it's time to do some other fun stuff with it. With the cork, for any of you that are wondering, I just get in there with a heel pry, kind of dig out whatever I can as carefully as I can, get in there, sand it up a little bit, maybe get some of the edges and kind of get that cork out of there that way. So I'll be back in just a few minutes once that's taken. Alright, so before I continue on, I want to show you real quick and correct myself, because I accidentally said heel ran. It's the gemming that's coming apart. So the gemming is this right here. It's this felt material that you can see that's coming unglued all around, and that's what the that's what secures the welt basically and everything together. So you've got the welt that the midsole is stitched onto, then you've got the outer leather, the liners, the insulation if it does have it, toe caps, heel counters, all that kind of stuff. All of that is layered here, you know, multiple layers. You can see it right there, all that lined up. And then the very last thing is the gemming, which is glued to that leather insole there, and it's coming unglued. And before I really continue on, I have to make sure I glue that down, because as I'm trying to scrape some of this cork out, it's kind of forcing me in some cases to almost stretch the leather, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to change the feel of the boot for this gentleman on these. They have to be, you know, fitted as the way they have been broken in other words. So I'm going to go ahead and go through and just glue it up with some contact cement. After that's all cured, I'm able to keep scraping, and then I can spray it down with a desalting agent, which there it is. I just write vinegar on there, but it's got a mixture of vinegar, desalter, easy cleaner, and diluted with some water so that it evaporates a little bit easier for us. And I'm going to spray it all over, inside and out. It helps clean the inside of the boots very well. Obviously, it deactivates all that sweat, the grime, and everything. If you want to check out my video, I just posted one at the time of this recording not long ago about cleaning and conditioning the inside of footwear, so that'll definitely show all the details of you know, how to condition and everything. Now these ones obviously are just going to be cleaned because they don't have a liner. We don't necessarily have to actually go through and do a full-on treatment. There's a leather liner on the inside about from here up. It's kind of hard to reach down, but I'm still going to spray it all down with the desalting agent to deactivate everything, and then stick them on some boot trees to try to help with that creasing there in the toe. Once that's all taken care of, then I can continue on with doing the rest of the process, but I really want to deactivate those salts and minerals from wearing them and from the sweat and moisture. Also on the outside I'll spray it too, just because it does penetrate sometimes through here, and that's why we replaced the cork. I mean, you saw how that cork shot out of there. It came out in pieces on me and everything. I got cork all over my table. They're on the soles too. There's a piece stuck right there. Tiny little piece. But yeah, it goes flying everywhere. It's on my laptop over here and everything. So, got to make sure to replace that. Now, obviously, there are a few cobblers out there that don't replace the cork, and they're highly respectable cobblers out there too that do it, that have been doing it for a long time. And they do it for orthopedic type purposes, because their thought is, well, it's broken into your foot, has your mold on there, your mold. The mold of your foot is embedded into that cork, and replacing it, taking it out, will change that, and you have to kind of re-break it in. But the leather on these insoles is so thick that the breaking period is actually fairly quick on that, so you shouldn't have any kind of issues. If your leather insole on the inside is already broken in here, the cork is going to break in very quickly. But it's better to replace it, in my opinion, just because it absorbs a lot of sweat, moisture, grime, nasty stuff, and everything. So I'll go ahead and get this other one taken care of the same way, sand up the edges a little bit, and then we'll get ready to pull the stitches. So we'll see you back in just a minute. Alright everyone, so we have the stitches obviously pulled out everywhere. Some of those little stragglers pulled out by hand or with pliers. Now these boots did not come with any kind of shank in them because it had that Vibram, or not the Vibram, the Red Wing sole on there. This guy right here. And so typically I've noticed they don't put the shanks in those models, but since we're converting it over to the Vibram 430 sole, we're definitely going to want to stick a shank in there and make sure it gets all the proper support it needs. So we got a steel shank, and now we can just lay the cork over top. Now obviously I could cut corners and not put the shank in there and let it slide, because nobody sees that kind of stuff, but trust me, these boots won't end up being this guy's potential favorite boots anymore if he feels something off about them without that shank in there. We want to make sure these boots last him for many years, and he ends up loving to wear them. So I'm going to let that cure for a little bit and then sand everything up and then start getting ready to stick the midsole on there. That's another thing that we're definitely going to do. Now midsole on this sole obviously is what ends up getting stitched to the boot, and then the full sole gets glued over top. Well, we're going to be stitching that Vibram 430 sole, but it's a little flimsy, it's a little soft and flexible, so we want to make the boot a little bit stiffer with that midsole so that it accommodates that support for the toe, so it doesn't end up being too flexible in that toe area, and that's why there's a midsole typically added to a boot. But other times they're added because you got to glue a sole over top of that, and you can't just glue that sole without that midsole on there. So thought I'd just show all those details. I'll go ahead and sand that out, glue the midsole on, and we'll get ready to stitch it. So we'll see you back in just a few. Alright everyone, so at this point we're going to go ahead and stick the sole on there. We've got that midsole and everything on there trimmed up a little with a knife. Going to take out those shoe trees in here. Now at this stage, usually if you're wanting a particular sole on there, we're able to stitch that midsole and then adhere any variety of sole that you'd like. But this gentleman wants the Vibram 430 sole, and we're going to be stitching through that sole anyways. So, it's nice and toasty. Alright, the other one's in the oven already, getting warmed up. There we go. So I'm going to run this over to the press and then let it cure for a little bit, trim off all the excess there all around, and we'll be about ready to trim it up and get going on the stitching. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of the other one, and I'll see you back in a little bit. Now the shoe trees, I forgot to mention, those I've been taking in and out of these boots over and over to try to help with that creasing, because I did wash them basically and got these boots all soaked. So that's why the shoe trees are in there. Hopefully to get that creasing out. It's better, but not 100%. Once it gets fully conditioned, it'll probably be a lot better afterwards. So really warm there. So I'll be back.
All right, everyone, so we've got the heels on these guys, as you can tell. So we did the narrow channel right there, so that's what's called a closed channel. Basically, the machine cuts the channel as it's stitching, and it's just a thin blade that cuts through it. And it did blue, you can probably see down in there when I open it up a little bit, so gives it a little bit of color, you know. Heel bases, well, these are a whole heel and they measure out to the same height as what the previous sole is like, so we definitely don't want to put an actual heel base on there. And this is the matching Vibram 430. Now, typically most of you know that we run nails in from the inside of the boots or shoes. These ones, however, since they're a 360 welt, they don't get nails in that way. They get the nails from the outside. So we're using 5/8 inch gripper nails like that right there, and they're just going to go into the holes here. Okay. Alright, now we get all the outside holes here taken care of, but the two right here, I'll show it on the other boot, two right here we don't do, just because there may be a potential, because this is all soft, it's rubber, it's not leather especially, there may be a potential that at some point those nails can shift around and actually poke all the way through on the inside of the shoe or boot. So gotta make sure we don't have that issue. We gotta plan ahead for the future. But I'm gonna use a punch tool like that, punch all the nails in. There we go. Now you can see the nails on the inside, and now it's time to do the other one and then go ahead and sand things out. Now, as you can tell, I like to flare out these soles especially, so they're kind of flared out. We've got to make sure everything is leveled out nicely. And flaring it out kind of helps prevent getting the stitches too close to the edge and sanding it out like that. So the flare out method, for all you cobblers out there, you might enjoy it a little bit better. Gets everything fitted nicely on the back of the heel, especially afterwards when you get the heel base or the full heels on. All right, so we'll see you back in just a few minutes time. All right, everyone. So we're just about done. We got the edging taken care of on these. Now we've got, obviously, you can see the bottom there taken care of. And so now, one of the most important things that if you own a pair of boots, shoes, anything that's leather, condition. Especially here in Colorado, we're such a dry state, you have to make sure you condition. So this is an oiled leather, kind of like a rough out. And so what I recommend is the Saphir oiled leather cream. Some people call it the greasy cream. And that would be ideal. Now before I do that, I'm going to take this glove off. There's a little scuff right here. Little one like that. And we can use some of this just to kind of lay it back down. It's a small piece. Sorry, it was one of our suppliers. They're start doing their weekly runs like they used to. Okay, so just put a little bit of adhesive on there, and that way that little piece lays out there flat. So okay, now we can go ahead and condition these. One thing I hate about these bottles though is they're the squeeze type. I prefer a dip, so it's easier for me to just do this, take off the lid, shake it back and forth, and apply it on. Now these, the gentleman said they were black. They were looking a brown color to me. We have cleaned these up. We've gone ahead and sprayed it down with a desalting agent when we had the sole off and everything. So it's hard to tell exactly the color. Sorry, getting interrupted. My food's here. So now, because I can't identify what color these are for sure, I'm gonna go ahead and stick to neutral. Now, if you know for a fact what color they were and everything, because over time, obviously, you can also forget. I've had guys that tell me, oh, these are a black pair of boots or something, or shoes, when in reality that company doesn't even make that style in a black color, or vice versa. So neutral works out great. The other thing is, because of the light color stitching, yes, these are supposed to be a light colored stitch all around here, not all of them, but most of them. And neutral is going to help not color those threads. So stick to the neutral if you're just starting out, if you're not trying to restore color too much. Oiled leathers like this, it's a little hard to restore the color on, because the color is basically impregnated into it during the conditioning and tanning process. So you want to make sure that if the color is starting to fade out, don't be trying to use any kind of spray dyes or any kind of other form of dyes, alcohol-based dyes, unless you know what you're doing. Oiled leather is very hard to change the color on and re-dye it or even touch up the color. But anyways, make sure you condition the insides here like that. Oh, come on. Now before you condition, you usually want to make sure you brush them off, clean them off, which again we already did, so we're not needing to redo the whole process of that. But typically an easy cleaner is what I recommend for these oiled ones. You could also use saddle soap, but wipe it off very quickly with the saddle soap method. Just spray some water into the actual saddle soap, take a horsehair brush and just brush it on until it foams up. And once you've got it cleaned up in that area, have a rag right there next to you so you can wipe off all that foam so it doesn't absorb into the leather. Most of those saddle soaps, they have silicones in them, and you don't want them getting soaked into the leather too much. They have other ingredients in some of them as well that aren't too good for oiled leather in particular. So if you just leave it on there and it gets soaked in, it's going to look shabby very quickly, and it dries out the leather significantly. So just bear that in mind. It's the best thing I'll recommend for you as far as being an owner of a pair of Red Wings or anything that is oiled leather like that. Saddle soap is great, but you got to be quick with it. That's all I can tell you. Alright, so I got this one conditioned up. I'm gonna let it sit there for a minute, soak in all that nutrients and that conditioning agent, and
do the other boot. Once that's all soaked in, I'm gonna buff them up and relace them and everything like that. But for now, let's set them aside for the moment and do the other one. Anyways, if you have any questions or want more details on this stuff right here, definitely check out my daily post. I did a video talking about oiled leather creams. There's one from the Beauty de Cure line and the other one from the Midsole Dior. The Midsole Dior is great too. Yep, there it is. There's that one right there. But for work boot style like that, the Beauty de Cure works phenomenally. Sometimes this more refined stuff might be just a little too much for some of these workhorse type boots. They're just meant to be beaten up and everything, and so that Midsole Dior stuff might be just a little bit too fine for it. Yes, there is sometimes that case of being too good of a product. Anyways, why don't I put the lid back on? Let me finish these out and I'll see you back in just a minute. Alright everyone, so got these all resoled and taken care of now. Reconditioned. Got everything. A Vibram 430 Mini Lug Sole and heel with the blue stitching on the inside. And then obviously we did the white up top like it was originally here. And cleaned up, reconditioned. So we're done. Hope you enjoyed the video on the process of converting from a Vibram Christie style sole with the wedge to a different type of Vibram with the actual 90-degree cut heel like that. So when anybody's asking, wedge sole goes straight across like that and everything, where a 90-degree heel, if you ever hear me mention that, that means it goes straight 90 degree down. Some of them go at a 40 degree. Oh, all right, guess somebody came in real quick. But anyways, hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. Otherwise, give me a thumbs up button. Click on the thumbs up button. Can't talk. If you enjoyed the video, and if you aren't subscribed already, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell icon to be notified for our next video when we release it, or if we ever end up starting to go live. Otherwise, you could always go to our website, CobblersPlusCO. You can check out everything we have on there. Contact us through there as well, or swing on by. We're over here in Denver, the Tech Center area by Micro Center for those of you who are local. And again, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.